Stanford University.
Good evening. Hi. Yeah, great. So I must say I'm a little surprised by the venue because Larry said we were going to be in the museum, and last time I heard a speaker here, there was a nice small courtyard and it was an intimate group. So this is a little more than I had reckoned for. So we'll start to go, and we'll go with the slides as I had planned, but I may change in mid-course, so we'll see what happens. What I want to talk to you about today is something that's essentially a little bit of a story of my life, and it goes where I was trained formally as a mechanical engineering person. I have many degrees, including a PhD from Columbia University, and as Larry says, I came to Stanford as a freshman professor in 1962. And at that time, there was a certain image of what designers did and what engineers did. And basically what we did was objects. And that's where we started. And now I'm in a totally different place. I'm now one of the directors of the D.school, and I'm still doing design, but it looks totally different. So that's how things were when I came. I was here about 4 years when that picture was taken. And the thing about it, in addition to my tie and my haircut, is the fact that I'm holding a mechanical model. And that's a model of a mechanical linkage made from some sort of a set. And people didn't have virtual reality and things like that. And that's kind of what objects looked like in those days. And I had a chairman who, when I became interested in people, he called me aside and he said, "Roth, goddamn you, engineering has nothing to do with things. It has everything to do with things and not with people." And he was my chairman, and then he became my dean. So I had that for my life for a long time. And I must say, he probably doesn't hold that view any longer, but that was the common view within most circles, that engineers dealt with things and other people, like social scientists, dealt with people. What happened after a while is when we dealt with people, they were like stick figures. They weren't real people. They were sort of objects in the environment. And eventually we got to where we not only dealt with still objects, but something changed. We got to teams. So eventually there were team-based design, and that was a big change. And then what happened is, if you were really cool in those days, you not only were interested in technology, but you were interested in business. So the real well-rounded engineer in those days, he had a balance, or she had a balance. There were very few she's then, but they had a balance where they had some technology and business, and if they were in that circle there, then they were kind of groovy and all of that. And if we introduced people, it was ergonomics. So there were human factors, but they really weren't dealing with real people. They were dealing with them as mechanical objects who had certain dimensions. Now what's happened, there's been a huge change. And the huge change is there's a third circle, and that third circle is the one on the bottom, which is human values. And now when we talk about people, we talk about social sciences and need finding and psychology and things like that. So there is this sweet spot in the middle, which is where the groovy people are. And the groovy people at Stanford, among others, are the people at the D.school, which is where I am. And the groovy people in industry are out at IDEO and places like that, which is where Denny Boyle, who spoke to us at lunch, is. And so there's been a huge change as to where you're supposed to be and what you're supposed to do. And what happens when you add real people to the mix, you have to deal with things that are experiential, they're integrative, they're empathic, they have insights based, and it's a whole different world. I kind of see it in some way, people always research people, but they sort of researched on the left-hand side. They did focus groups, they did market research. Now people are looking at things that people don't even know about themselves. So we're doing things like observation, and you're doing videography, and Denny explained that all very nicely this lunchtime. I hope you heard that, about how discoveries are made that people themselves don't even know that they do. And so that's kind of where the measure of people is nowadays. And I view the situation something like this picture here. What most of us were trained in, myself included, would be called analytical thinking. And that harnesses explicit knowledge and its logically expressed thoughts. And that's like this poor man over here at the bottom who has to cross this mountain pass. It may be very tough. It may be difficult. He may have crevasses. He may have obstacles. But he knows where he's going. He knows where he started, and he knows where he wants to end up. And that's analytical thinking. And what design thinking is different about it is you have to harness tacit knowledge rather than the explicit knowledge of logically expressed thoughts. And it's all hidden like this iceberg. So you start on your problem and you see this little thing up there, but when you actually work, and if you're lucky, you get these insights about things you didn't even know existed, and that's where the big payoff is. So that's the difference between the two. Now, it's not that stark when we go from one to the other, but that's the difference about what we do now and what we used to do before. A good analogy, if you look at the phone service used to be very simple. This is sort of when I was a kid almost, and then it got classical. This was the classic phone for all my life, and then it got a new world. And that's sort of what's happened in my life as a designer. And I started out teaching this way. This is an actual photograph of a robotics design class I teach. It has several hundred students, and you can see how few are in the room. The rest are home watching it on TV. They're yawning. I haven't even started yet. It gets very high ratings. I really enjoy teaching it, but looking at it now, it's crazy. And then I got a little more classical, and I started going around the world doing design projects. And it was me and a bunch of students, and that was much groovier because I was with them and I got a lot of energy from them. And then a miracle happened in my life, and something called the D.school happened. And that's like the new world in telephones. And as we call it the D.school, its official name is the Hasso Plattner Institute of Design at Stanford. It's shortly known as the D.school, which you can Google if you're interested. And what happened there is that we became a group of professors like I've never had before. I had worked with colleagues, always one colleague or something like that. Here we had a whole bunch of people from very different disciplines, from very different outlooks, from different schools of the university, who joined together to make an institute where we would all team teach and the students would be teamed together. And we got a sort of, we call it a paper manifesto or a napkin manifesto, and the idea is to use design thinking, have radical collaboration among people, do big projects, not made up projects like I always did, but real big projects in the world, and we call that the Stanford D.school. And this picture which I showed you before, if you look a little bit more, you don't know these people, but there are actually 8 professors in that class looking at whoever is up there doing something. And if you understand that, that's a whole different world. And when I told the Dean of Engineering, we have invented the most expensive way to do education, he said, Bernie, money is not everything. And I never thought I'd hear that from a dean. But it's really true. Money is not everything, and efficiency is not everything. It's results that are everything. This is what teaching is like in the D.school. That's me, Terry Winograd, a professor of computer science. Guy Julian at the end is a psychologist. We call him the D-shrink. And the woman is the head of our entrepreneuring and invention group. So we have, everything is done as a team. We do this class once for a week long in the summer. It's the best class I've ever done. We're about to do it the 4th time, and all of us can't wait to do it. We've canceled other things just to be there, and the students feel exactly the same way. What it is we have amalgamated a lot of different fields, and we bring them all together. This has some of them. I notice there's biology, medicine, stuff like engineering, education. All of these exist, including law, which I notice isn't on here. And we have people, we have students from all these fields, we have professors from all these fields. We have a process. It's called the design process. I liked what Denny did this morning. It's exactly what I would do. Basically, this is one one possible representation of something. Here's another possible representation of something. You can make them in any shapes you want. You can put any names in them. But the whole idea is you need a process and you have to be mindful of it. And you should change it, and you should have an appropriate process for what you're doing. But in our life, process is really important. Everything we do in the D-school revolves around a process. If we hire someone, we have a special D-thinking process for that. If we build furniture, if we change our room, everything we live what we're teaching. And that's quite different than going out and shutting off after your class is over. So basically what we're trying to do is be human-centered. We have a bias toward action. We have radical collaboration. We have a very strong culture of prototyping. We believe in showing, not telling, and we are very mindful of process. So that's the whole secret to the D-school right there. And we learn by doing. So the students, we use very little formal lectures. We move students quickly to complete immersion in a problem. We quickly create empathy for the clients, and we move rapidly into the ideation phase by use of sketches, lists, and prototypes. And what we're talking about with students is not training designers, not training engineers, but training design thinkers. And what we're saying is people have some analytical thinking ability. They're lawyers, they're doctors, they're engineers, they're businessmen, they're businesswomen, they're sociologists. I have one guy, he's a PhD student in Russian languages. Whatever they are, that's their expertise, that's their analytical thinking. And what we're trying to do is add the top to the T to show them how they can take their thing and use it in a way that they've never thought of using their expertise before, and work with other people to be more powerful than they are. So what we're really after is empowering them. I teach a course called Transformative Design. And we tell the students it has to do with transforming stuff in the world. The secret is I really want to transform the students, and that's what happens. They transform themselves, and I myself transform. This is our environment. We're very, very concerned about our environment. Everything is thought out. Most of the furniture we build ourselves. We have a whole team of people I pay a lot of money to, and they're very professional, and they figure out ways that people need to expand and to work together in a very efficient way. This is what happens. This is the energy. I won't go through all the people here, but this is an event at a school. You can just feel the energy by looking at it, and buried in there is the president of Stanford University. The president of Stanford University has never come to a design event in my whole life here since 1962. He comes to every event at the D-school. He tells every alumni group that this is the future. The dean tells every alumni group this is the future. It's a very exciting thing that we're caught up in. And what we do is we make exciting spaces. They could be very simple spaces, and then the students take them and convert them. So the students are part of what's doing. It's all team-based. This is a set of design notebooks. Again, everything is thought out in very precise ways to get results that we're after. And I love this picture. This is one of the students. She came to us. Her name is Sarah, and it says, "Why are you here?" And she said she wants to get out of the GSB, Graduate School of Business bubble, and have fun. She not only got out of the Graduate School of Business bubble, she created our whole executive education program for us. So we have like opportunities that they've never had anywhere before, and she now is devoting her whole life to design thinking. We have things we call labs. One of our best labs is called K through 12, meaning kindergarten through 12th grade. We work with young children, and we continue. These are not classes. These are actually projects in the world. We teach them design thinking. We teach them how to use design thinking in other subjects. We're all over the world. This is in the Henry Ford Museum. This diner is in the museum. It's a high school in the museum. We're teaching design thinking there. We're doing the whole 5th grade in Bhutan. We're in India. We're in Chicago in an old powerhouse in a high school. We get people from all over. So this is now moving away from the objects. My life has very little to do with objects now, very little to do with kinematics, very little to do with robotics. It has to do with whatever walks in the door. These people from New York, WNYC, New York Public Radio, came to us and said they have to make a new program with the BBC and the Wall Street Journal. They know everything about radio, but they want someone who can think out of the box. We said, okay, we'll give you a week-long executive workshop. Meet us at the Palo Alto train station at 9 a.m. on Monday morning. This guy is the station manager. He arranged it all. They met us 9 o'clock Monday morning. We were out there with our red couches, and we held the first class at the train while people were going to work. It blew their minds. They said in retrospect, the moment they saw that, they knew they were in the right place. And we've been working with them for 4 years. We worked with them through the election, through the Obama election. We worked with them. This is called Breaking News, a project we did with them. When news breaks very quickly, they get a lot of information, but a lot of it is wrong. And the question is, how do you handle that? Well, we were able to, with our methods, help them get to good solutions with that. Visa came to us, for example. Visa is an old shabby company, and as Denny says, it's not the company, it's who you deal with. And we were lucky to have Scott Sanchez, who's the Director of Innovation, who's the guy sitting in the front row laughing at his presentation. And out of the 10 projects we did for them in one term, 8 of them are being implemented as ways to do social good and make money at the same time. And that has nothing to do with objects. This is my favorite. Elizabeth Streb, who is a dancer from Brooklyn, New York, who is a MacArthur Fellow. It's a so-called Genius Prize. She came to Stanford. The people from the dance department brought her over. She fell in love with me because I have a New York accent. And she said, Bernie, we have to do something together. So I said, okay, when you come back here for a performance, we'll talk about process. She came, she told us her problems. We used our process on her problems. She gave a concert later on at Stanford. This is some shots from the concert. It's a very athletic kind of dance thing. And at the end of the concert, she called 2 people up to the stage. One is Mort Grosser. Mort is one of these Silicon Valley multi-millionaires. He was part of the people who did the people-driven airplane over the channel, the Gossamer, and he's her financier. And she called me up as a token of the business school. And she told the whole audience of thousands of people that I forever changed her process. So it's an amazing thing that we're using this thing which works on everything. And we sort of said that in the beginning, but we never knew it. Tommy is a guy who took my Transformative design class. Tommy is a lawyer. He's a law student. His job is in New Orleans, of all places. He's the head of the public defender's office, and his job is to change that office. He's using design thinking to change the law office. I never thought you could do that. We had a project with students on bike safety. Bike safety is a big problem on the campus. So they did simulations. That's not a real accident, that's a simulation. If you go on the campus now, you'll see a lot of circles, bicycle circles. They're a result of our students' work. We did for JetBlue, airline company, the call waiting experience. People put on call waiting. No one likes to be on call waiting. And the students figure out a way to put them on waiting. And they did prototypes of it by going to the post office where people are waiting. And this woman dressed up very fancily as part of the experiment. So we do a lot of prototypes, but they're not necessarily hardware. So we do a lot of classes in the D.school. Here's a list of a lot of them. My favorite is one that we're going to give for the first time coming up. It's the bottom one. It's called Designing Liberation Technology. We do it with a professor from the political science department, and it's going to have to do with using design methods to have people have more democracy in their lives. But we do all sorts of things like software designing, and we do also boot camp, which is our big class of introducing people. And the class I'm going to show you most about, and a really nice video about, is called Entrepreneurial Design for Extreme Affordability, and you'll see about that later on. All classes have mixed teams, as I told you. This is a list of the students' majors in the class that I do in the summertime, called Introduction to Design Thinking. So there's aero and astro, archaeology, bioengineering, bioinformatics, civil engineering, chemical engineering, computational mathematics, computer science, Russian, drama, economics, education, electrical engineering, energy resources, law, mathematics, business, so medicine, person, so forth and so on. And that's our typical class. We won't let a class in with students that are not mixed. We use a lot of outside faculty. We have Deborah Dunn, who's a former Senior Vice President for Strategy at HP. We have Michael Deering, who's a former Senior Vice President at eBay. We have Perry Clyburn, who's the CEO of a company called Timbuktu. We have John Lilly, the CEO of Mozilla. We have Diego Rodriguez, who's a partner at IDEO and the head of the office. We have Bill Mogridge, who's a co-founder of IDEO, and people like Denny, of which there are lots of them, who are parts of every class, and I can always call on Denny to give a lecture on prototyping and amaze everyone with how this stuff works in the real world. So we're in a very rich area and we're using it. And now that people are cutting back, we get a lot of people for free who just want to do something. We have class, for example, Clicks and Bricks, which is designing mass marketing experiences. We did work for Disney, we did work for Walmart. We have a class called CIA. It's a cute name. It means Creating Infectious Action. We did a project for Mozilla. We did a project on global giving. We did work for Fidelity. We have a business process innovation class. We did work for JetBlue, Timbuktu, IDEO. We do special events, boot camps. We do work for journalism fellows. We do executive education. We do all sorts of things that I won't go into. We run labs. I mentioned K through 12. We have an extreme affordability lab. We have an environments and learning space lab. We have the health and wellness lab. And we have something called Ambidextrous. This is a paid commercial announcement, folks. There's this great magazine called Ambidextrous. And it's published by Stanford students. And it looks like that, and they'd love for you to know about it, and it'll turn you into a wondrous designer if you read it. And these are three people who were students who founded it. The guy in the middle is now at MIT as a faculty person. The woman on your right is Charlotte. She's our director of community. If you come to the D.school tomorrow, we give you a tour at 2 o'clock, you'll see Charlotte. And then the woman on the left is Wendy Ju, who has a PhD from HCI at Stanford and was one of my co-teachers in Transformative Design. Let's go back. So now I'm going to show you the video of from the Extreme Affordability class.
As an engineer and as a designer, I feel people who are like socially responsible or have this inclination that I want to help the world in general. There's this, all I know how to do is make more stuff. I can make computers, I can make missiles, but I don't want to make missiles, I want to help people. So there's not really a venue for me to actually attack that sort of thing in kind of standard class setting.
Every year at the Hasso Plattner Institute of Design at Stanford, graduate students from business, engineering, medicine, science, and other disciplines rally together to create solutions for the big, messy problems of the world's poor. The vehicle? A course called Entrepreneurial Design for Extreme Affordability.
In that 6-month experience, student teams work with real partner organizations on the ground in the developing world to design services and products that will serve the needs of the world's poor.
When we originally started the project, 2 of our teammates went over to Ethiopia and we met a woman named Fatuma.
This is my mother, Fatuma, standing proudly in front of the traditional hut we live in just outside Hawassa in Ethiopia. This is our mutad. My mother uses it to cook injera, Ethiopia's staple food, for every meal we eat. It's one of my mother's most important possessions, but mutads are a serious problem. They break every few months. Our family replaces our mutad almost 4 times a year because of these little accidents. The money we spend on replacing them would pay for my school expenses with a little extra for food.
We saw that a lot of these cooking services, these clay things called metads, keep breaking all the time, at great expense to these families. So we took these pieces of clay that break all the time, and we figured out that if you surround them with a compressive band of metal, you get much stronger surface that's going to last people a long time, save them quite a bit of money.
With the band on, the metad can be kicked, it can be dropped, it can sustain quite a bit of impact, and it doesn't break.
The mighty Matad will pay for itself 4 times over every year, saving Fatima enough money to pay for her son's education. If the mighty Matad reaches everyone in Ethiopia, it could save families nearly $200 million and reduce the consumption of Matad production resources by 800%, annually saving over 1 billion pounds of clay and countless numbers of the endangered trees that are burned while firing the Matads.
You know, when you scale these things across a country and you look at a nation that really needs better solutions than what they already have, it's amazing how much impact you can get from just very small changes.
Students want to make real things for real people that make a real difference.
And so far, they have. 2 years ago, students redesigned an irrigation pump in Myanmar. 6 months after the project began, the pump was on the market and is now the best-selling treadle pump in Myanmar. Another pressure pump designed through the course was so popular that poor farmers paid money to reserve a pump before they arrived in stores. One water storage project is now saving hundreds of thousands of lives by providing clean water to victims of Cyclone Nargis. 2 lighting companies have formed out of the class. Cosmos Ignite Innovations has been selling solar rechargeable LED lights in Asia, Africa, and Central America for the last 3 years. D-Light Design was launched more recently and is already selling their affordable LED lights in Africa and Asia. One team took a $40 asthma device and, inspired by origami, made it out of folded paper at a cost of only pennies. Another team recently founded a company to make incubators for premature infants in remote areas. Their product costs $25, has no moving parts, and requires no electricity. What happens to a team of students like this?
After graduation this Saturday, they are moving to India where they're going to start field tests of their incubator design.
I would describe the course as all-consuming, invigorating, inspiring, and really a memorable experience.
It's the best class I've ever taken, period, and I've been in school for a long time, so that doesn't come lightly. It's been a phenomenal experience, and I can't say how excited I am that we have something I think will actually make some change.
So that's real. I mean, that's not made up video. That's real stories and real things. And that's about a year ago. A lot of miracles have happened since then. And when you go out in the field and you meet some of these people that benefit from this, it really it brings tears to your eyes. The people with the incubator moving ahead, they just left right now actually for India, and they're doing field tests there, and that looks really great. This is the water pump. When you go to Myanmar, everyone has, we just sell the red part, and everyone has different wooden parts on it. I love it. It's just, but children can do it. This is an amazing thing. You have children doing it half the night. In some cases, they have tables where they have their homework there, and you can just do it. You never get tired of doing it. It's just a simple thing, and that's the big win with that. Here's an old woman, she has 10 children, and she can do it, and even an old professor like me can do it. It's very easy. This is the lighting thing. It's amazing, these places. They use task lighting. They used to use kerosene. It was very toxic, very expensive. This company has built these lights. They build them in various forms, and they've actually lit up a whole city. This is a city of stone cutters who make 75 cents a day breaking rocks, and they can stay up a few more hours, make another 15 cents, and it makes a huge difference in their life. Not that I'd want to do it, but that's their circumstances, and we're trying to make it easier for them. This is the business that we're in. This is the place we do it in, and as I say, everything is thought out very carefully. We developed special boards with wheels so we can set up for groups to work. We know how to transfer have people have their work available. We have those tables built. We build our own work tables. We think them out. We build them for the children. We build them for ourselves. This is our new building that we're getting in about 4 months. We should move into it. It's a classic Stanford building. It's being remodeled for us. And what's amazing in that process, we have an environments group, and we're dealing with professional architects. And now we're at the part where we're dealing with the furniture. We're dealing with a big company called Steelcase, a big American company. And I'm so proud when I'm in these discussions, because my team is who the professionals are learning from. These guys, we have like the A team from Steelcase, and they have never seen any clients like us, because we have thought so deeply about every element in this thing, and we have so much experience with it that they're even saying they may come out with a D.school line of furniture. Anyway, that's my team. We have what are called fellows. They're like postdocs. They're postmaster students. We pay them very nicely. They don't take classes. They help with the teaching. They help with the project and the rest of the staff. So that's the heart of the operation. We're there all the time. Some are staff and some are these fellows, and that's what makes it work. So in conclusion, I would say that the big addition in my life and in the world around us is that people are now center stage. In addition to artifacts, we have experiences, and in addition to physical prototypes, we have stories. And these concepts combine seamlessly and can be applied to almost anything. Now, I just have one extra little slide, which is a present to my friend Denny. And this goes back when we were much younger, and you can see the scowl on my face. And it was my concern that when the world was changing from artifacts to all this stuff, what would happen to these students and friends that I loved so dearly who knew how to design stuff? They would be swamped by the sociologists and the anthropologists, and they would have a lesser role in their company. And it turns out it never happened. I didn't have to scowl, because these guys who were the heroes when they were designing stuff are still the heroes when we're designing experience, because the damn method works. And that's the amazing thing about all of that, and that's the big surprise in my life that I want to share with you. Thank you very much.
For more, please visit us at stanford.edu.